Chapter 1. Blood on Marbleith Gallery was supposed to close at 9. I was still there at 9:47, alone with a mop and bucket, cleaning champagne stains from imported Italian marble while rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The fundraiser crowd had left hours ago, wealthy donors in tuxedos and diamonds, laughing over sculptures they'd never understand, writing checks to feel cultured for an evening. I didn't mind the quiet. After 6 hours of fake smiles and yes, ma'am, and pretending I didn't notice wandering hands near the coat check, silence felt like mercy. The back door slammed open. I spun, mop clattering against the bucket. My heartbeat went from calm to thunder in one breath. A man stumbled through the service entrance, one hand pressed against his ribs, the other gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping him upright. His white shirt was soaked through with blood, so much blood it looked black in the low gallery lighting. Behind him, 2 more men pushed inside, equally damaged, one limping, the other's face a mess of split skin and swelling. "Lock it," the first man said, voice rough and breathless. The limping one obeyed, throwing the deadbolt. The sound echoed through the empty gallery like a gunshot. I should have screamed, should have run, should have done anything except stand there, frozen, while 3 bleeding strangers locked me inside with them. The first man's eyes found mine, even bleeding, even half dead on his feet. There was something about his gaze that made my lungs forget how to work. Dark eyes, nearly black in the dim light. The kind of eyes that saw everything, every thought, every fear, every secret you tried to bury. "You work here?" he asked. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "Yes." "Alone?" I nodded. He moved toward me, each step careful and controlled, despite the blood trailing behind him. Up close, I could see he was younger than I'd first thought, maybe 30, with sharp cheekbones and a jaw that looked carved from stone. Expensive suit ruined, dark hair falling across his forehead, damp with rain or sweat, or both. "What's your name?" "Sienna." It came out as barely a whisper. "Sienna." He repeated it like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. "I need you to stay calm." That's when I noticed the gun tucked into his waistband. My breath caught. The mop handle slipped from my fingers and clattered against the floor, the sound impossibly loud. "Easy." He lifted one hand, the one not pressed against his bleeding side. "I'm not going to hurt you. You have a gun?" "Yes." "There's blood everywhere." "Also yes." Behind him, the other 2 men had moved deeper into the gallery, checking windows, looking for exits or threats or whatever criminals look for when they're running from something. Because that's what this was. These men weren't here by accident. They were hiding. "You should sit," I heard myself say, "before you pass out." His mouth almost smiled. "Almost." "Worried about me?" "I'm worried about cleaning up. If you die on this floor, that marble costs more than I make in a year." This time he did smile, just barely, just for a second. Then he winced, the pain stealing it away. "Dominic," he said. "My name is Dominic." I didn't know why he told me that. Didn't know why it mattered. But something about the way he said it, the way he held my gaze while everything else was chaos, it felt important. Like an exchange. Names for names. A tiny thread of trust in a moment that should have been pure terror. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The limping man swore. "They're coming." "How bad is it?" Dominic asked, still watching me, still not moving. "Bad. 3 blocks out, maybe less." He finally looked away, his jaw tight. I could see him calculating, weighing options, making decisions I couldn't begin to understand. The blood was spreading across his shirt, steady and dark. "You need a hospital," I said. "Can't." His eyes came back to mine. "Sienna, listen to me very carefully. When the police come, you're going to tell them you saw nothing. You were in the back office doing inventory. You heard noise, came out, found blood, called it in. That's all. That's not what happened. It's what happened." The sirens were louder now, closer, maybe 2 blocks, maybe 1. "Why should I lie for you?" He stepped closer, near enough that I could smell blood and rain and something else, expensive cologne, cedar and smoke. His voice dropped lower, quieter, and somehow that made it more dangerous, because if you tell them the truth, you become a witness. And witnesses don't live long in my world. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, my wrists, behind my eyes. What world is that? The kind where men like me don't exist in police reports. The kind where men like me understanding hit me like cold water. "Are you?" I couldn't finish the question. He watched me figure it out. Watched the realization dawn across my face. He didn't confirm it. Didn't need to. Everything about him, the gun, the blood, the way his men moved like shadows, the weight of authority in his voice, despite the wound in his side, it all added up to one impossible, terrifying truth. The back door behind me exploded open. Not the main entrance. A side door I'd forgotten existed. More men poured in. These ones in tactical gear. Faces covered. Dominic's hand went to his gun. Don't, I breathed. He looked at me one last time. Something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then everything went to hell. Chapter 2. Questions without answers. The police kept me at the station until 4 in the morning. Detective Russo asked the same questions 17 different ways, as if I'd suddenly remember something new between repetition 12 and 13. What did I see? How many men? Did they threaten me? Did they say anything about where they were going? I stuck to Dominic's script. Back office. Inventory. Came out. Found blood. Called 911. Saw nothing. I was a terrible liar. My hands shook when I signed the statement. My voice went up half an octave every time I said I don't know. But Russo either didn't notice or didn't care. By the time they let me leave, the sun was starting to bleed pink across the city skyline. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it. 4th floor walk-up, peeling paint, radiator that clanged like church bells every 2 hours. I locked the door behind me, threw the deadbolt, and stood in my tiny kitchen until my legs remembered how to stop shaking. Then I threw up in the sink. After, I sat on the bathroom floor with my back against the tub, still wearing my gallery uniform, black slacks, white button down, name tag that said Sienna in clean block letters. There was blood on my sleeve, not mine, his, Dominic. I should have told them everything, should have described his face, his height, the way he moved. Like violence was a language he spoke fluently. Should have mentioned the other men, the tactical team that burst in shooting, the way Dominic had shoved me behind a sculpture worth $500,000 before the gallery turned into a war zone. Instead, I'd lied to the police. For a man with a gun and blood on his hands and eyes that looked at me like I was something other than collateral damage, I was an idiot. I was a criminal now too, technically. Obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting. Whatever they called it when you protected someone you shouldn't protect. My phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number. Unknown. You kept your word. My hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped through my fingers onto the tile.me. How did you get this number? Unknown. Same way I know you live at 2847 Morrison Street, apartment for B. Same way I know you take the metro to work every morning at 7:15. Same way I know you're sitting on your bathroom floor right now, trying not to panic. I looked up at the window above the toilet. Curtains drawn. He couldn't see me. Could he? Me. Are you threatening me? Unknown. I'm protecting you. Me. I don't need protection. Unknown. You lied to the police for me. That makes you involved whether you like it or not. My pulse was doing that thing again, where it felt less like a heartbeat and more like a countdown. I stood up, paced the 3 steps my bathroom allowed, turned around, paced back. Me. I should have told them everything. Unknown. But you did in single quotes t.me. Why? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Unknown. Because you're smart enough to know that some truths get people killed.me. I don't even know who you are. Unknown. Yes, you do. He was right. I did know. Not his full name, not his history, not the details that would fill in the terrifying blank spaces. But I knew enough. The gun, the blood, the way those tactical men had moved through the gallery like they were hunting something specific. The way Dominic's men had responded, with the kind of training that didn't come from YouTube videos or action movies.me. I can't be part of this. Unknown. You already are. My phone rang. Same unknown number. My thumb hovered over the decline button. I answered. Don't call me again. My voice sounded braver than I felt. 3 of the men who came after me tonight are still alive. His voice was exactly how I remembered it, low, controlled, dangerous even through a phone speaker. They saw your face, Sienna. They know you were there. Ice spread through my chest. You said if I kept quiet you'd be safe. And you will be. But safe doesn't mean untouched. It means watched. By them or by you. A pause. Long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. Then, me. I don't want to be watched. I don't care what you want. No apology in his tone. Just fact. Stated plainly. You became my responsibility the second you lied for me. That means I keep you alive. That means my men are outside your building right now. That means you don't go anywhere without me knowing about it. That's insane. That's reality. I pulled back the bathroom curtain an inch, looked down at the street for stories below. A black sedan sat parked across the street, windows tinted, engine probably still warm. As I watched, a second car pulled up behind it. "You can't do this," I whispered. "I already have." His voice softened, just slightly, just enough to make it worse. "I'll explain everything tomorrow. For now, get some sleep. You're safe." "How can you possibly know that?" "Because anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through me first." He hung up. I stood at the window, phone pressed against my chest, watching those dark cars on my street like guard dogs, or predators. Maybe both. The sky was lighter now, purple bleeding into gray. Morning shift at the gallery started in 5 hours. I should call in sick, should pack a bag and disappear to some other city, where men like Dominic didn't know my name or where I lived or what time I took the metro. Instead, I climbed into bed, still wearing my blood-stained clothes, and stared at the ceiling, trying to remember what my life had felt like 12 hours ago, before marble floors and gunfire and dark eyes that saw straight through me. Normal.it had felt normal. That girl was gone. Now. Chapter 3. The Devil Wears Armor was waiting outside the gallery when I arrived for my shift, not hiding, not lurking in shadows, just standing there on the sidewalk in full daylight like he had every right to exist in my world. Tailored black suit, no tie, hair pushed back, the wound in his side apparently healed enough that he could stand without wincing. I stopped 3 feet away. People streamed past us on the sidewalk, oblivious, living their normal lives, while mine spiraled into something unrecognizable. "You look better," I said. Less dead, disappointed, undecided. His mouth did that almost smile thing again. This close in daylight, I could see details I'd missed in the chaos. A small scar through his left eyebrow, another along his jaw, marks that told stories I probably didn't want to hear. "You can't be here," I said. "My boss will call the police. If she sees your boss is having lunch with her sister in Brooklyn, she won't be in until 2. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather, like knowing my boss's schedule was perfectly normal. I felt my jaw tighten. "Stop doing that." "Doing what?" "Proving you know things about my life. Would you prefer I pretend?" He stepped closer. Not threatening, just deliberate. "Would that make you feel safer? If I acted like I don't have eyes on every corner of this city, it would make me feel less like prey." Something flickered across his face, too quick to name. "You're not prey, Sienna. Prey runs. You lied to the police and came to work the next morning like nothing happened. That's not fear. That's something else. Stupidity, courage." The word hung between us, strange and uncomfortable. I looked away, focused on the gallery. Entrance. Behind him, the marble steps I'd climbed 100 times before. Everything looked the same. Everything felt different. "Why are you here?" I asked. "To make sure you're still breathing." "I'm breathing. And to give you this." He pulled something from his inside jacket pocket, a phone, sleek and new, still in plastic. "Encrypted, untraceable. My number's already programmed in. If anything feels wrong, if anyone approaches you, if you so much as see someone looking at you twice, you call me." Immediately. I didn't take it. "I have a phone. That phone is compromised. The people looking for me know how to find it. This one doesn't exist in any system." He held it out, patient. "Take it. And if I don't, then you're making this harder than it needs to be." "Maybe I want to make it hard." My voice came out sharper than intended. "Maybe I want you to leave me alone so I can go back to my regular life where the most dangerous thing I deal with is drunk donors and passive-aggressive coworkers. That life ended 2 nights ago. Because of you. Yes. No denial. No apology. Just acknowledgement. Flat and certain. Because I chose your gallery as a safe house. Because my enemies saw your face. Because you're connected to me now, whether either of us likes it." A woman walking past glanced at us, curious about the intensity in our voices. Dominic noticed. He always noticed. His hand found my elbow, gentle but firm, guiding me toward the alley beside the gallery. Not forcing, just directing, like he was used to people following his lead. I should have pulled away. Shouldn't have let him touch me. Shouldn't have followed him into the narrow space between buildings where no one could see us. But I did. The alley was cool and dim, smelling of rain-soaked concrete and restaurant grease from the Korean place next door. Dominic stopped when we were out of sight, his hand falling away from my arm. For a moment, we just stood there, close, enough that I could see the exhaustion under his controlled exterior. The kind of tired that lives in bones, not muscles. How bad is it? I asked quietly. Your side. 11 stitches. I'll live. Who did them? Doctor or someone I trust? He cut me off before I could finish. You don't need those details. Maybe I want them. Why? Good question. Why did I want to know? Why did I care if this dangerous stranger had proper medical care? Or if someone had stitched him up in a basement somewhere with whiskey and fishing line? Because you made me part of this, I said. Because your blood is on my sleeve and your men are parked outside my apartment and you're standing here acting like it's normal to track my every move. So maybe I deserve details. He studied me for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He showed me. Dominic's fingers went to his shirt, unbuttoning the bottom 3 with quick, efficient movements. He pulled the fabric aside enough for me to see the bandage wrapped around his ribs, white gauze stark against olive skin. A dark stain had seeped through on one side, not much, but enough to prove he was still bleeding underneath all that control. A doctor, he said. One who specializes in patients who can't visit hospitals. He did good work. I'll heal. I shouldn't have looked. Shouldn't have let my eyes linger on the exposed skin, the defined muscle, the evidence of other scars that marked his torso like a map of violence. But I did look, and he let me, standing perfectly still, while I catalogued every mark, every wound, every piece of proof that this man lived a life where bullets and blades were commonplace. Satisfied? He asked. I met his eyes. Terrified, actually. Good. You should be. He buttoned his shirt, covering the damage. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. He held out the phone again. This time, I took it. His fingers brushed mine during the exchange, just for a second, just long. Enough for me to feel how warm his skin was despite everything. How steady his hand was compared to my shaking one. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not running. Then he walked away, disappearing into the sunlight like a shadow that had never been there at all. I stood in that alley for 5 more minutes, holding an encrypted phone and wondering when exactly I'd stopped being afraid of him and started being afraid for him instead. Chapter 4. The Watched and the Watcher. Flowers arrived at the gallery 3 days later, not roses, not something obvious or romantic. Instead, calla lilies, stark white against black paper, arranged with the kind of precision that suggested a florist who understood that some beauty was meant to unsettle. No card, no signature, just flowers that cost more than I made in a week. Sitting on the reception desk when I arrived for my shift, my coworker Melissa whistled low. Someone's got an admirer. Who's the lucky guy? I touched one petal, silk smooth and cold. No idea. But I knew. Of course I knew. The encrypted phone buzzed in my pocket. Dominic, do you like them? Me. They're flowers. They're fine. Dominic, liar. You touched the middle one twice. That means you like them. I spun around, scanning the gallery. Empty except for Melissa and 2 college students sketching the Rothko in the East Wing. No one watching. No dark-eyed man in expensive suits lurking near the sculptures. Me. Where are you? Dominic. Close enough. Me. That's not an answer. Dominic. It's the only answer you're getting. Wear your hair down tonight. Me. Excuse me? Dominic. You heard me. He stopped responding after that. I stared at the screen, my pulse doing that accelerated thing it always did when he inserted himself into my day, which was often now. Texts about what I ate for breakfast. Comments about the book I'd been reading on the metro. Questions about whether I'd noticed the man in the gray jacket following me. I hadn't, but Dominic's men had handled it, whatever that meant. I should have blocked him. Should have thrown the phone in the river and told my boss I needed a week off to deal with a family emergency in another state. Instead, that night, I wore my hair down. The restaurant was 2 blocks from my apartment. The kind of Italian place with check tablecloths and candles and wine bottles and waiters who'd been working there since before I was born. I'd walked past it 1,000 times, never once going inside because the prices were double what I could afford and the clientele always looked like they belonged in a different tax bracket than mine. Dominic sat at a corner table, positioned so he could see both exits and the kitchen entrance. Of course he could. Men like him probably mapped escape routes before they mapped the menu. He stood when I approached. That surprised me. The old-fashioned manners from someone who looked like he made his living breaking things. You came, he said. You didn't give me much choice. I sat down across from him, hyper aware of the other diners, the waiter hovering. The strangeness of being here with him like this was normal. Like we were on a date instead of whatever this was. Your men followed me the entire walkover. I know. I told them to keep their distance. 2 car lengths isn't distance. It is when they're trained to kill from 300 yards. He poured wine from a bottle. I hadn't seen him order. Red. Dark as blood in the candlelight. Relax. No one's dying tonight. How reassuring. I thought so. He slid the glass toward me. It's safe. I've already had some. I laughed, sharp and humorless. You think I'm worried about poison? I think you're worried about everything. It's exhausting to watch. Then stop watching. Can't. He said it simply, like it was obvious. Like he'd tried and failed and accepted his fate. You're under my skin now. The words landed between us, heavy and strange. I lifted the wine glass just to have something to do with my hands, something to focus on besides the way he was looking at me, steady and intense and completely unreadable. Why am I here? I asked. Because I wanted to see you. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters. He leaned back, fingers drumming once against the table. A nervous tell, maybe, or just habit. You've been good, following instructions, using the phone, staying alert. I wanted to thank you properly. With calla lilies and Italian food, with honesty. His voice dropped lower. There are 3 families in this city who want me dead. 4, if you count the Russians, but they're more interested in territory than blood right now. The men who came to the gallery weren't random. They were sent by someone close to me, someone I trusted. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you're in the middle of. I set down the wine glass, my appetite for both food and conversation suddenly gone. I'm not in the middle of anything. I just happened to be there that night. You stopped being just there the second you lied for me. Now you're leverage. You're a weakness. His jaw tightened, the only sign of emotion on his otherwise controlled face. And I don't have weaknesses. Not anymore. Not since he stopped himself. Looked away. I waited. Not since someone I cared about died because I was careless. He finished quietly. The restaurant noise faded into background static. All I could hear was my heartbeat and his breathing and the terrible weight of what he wasn't saying. Who? I asked. My sister. 7 years ago. She was 23. His fingers had stopped drumming. Now they were just still, pressed flat against the tablecloth. They took her to get to me. It worked. Dominic, I won't let that happen again. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something in his eyes that made my chest ache. Not danger this time. Desperation. Which is why you're going to disappear for a while. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find you. What? There's a house in the mountains. Private. Guarded. You'll have everything you need. Absolutely not. Sienna, I'm not running. I surprised myself with how firm my voice came out. I'm not hiding. And I'm definitely not letting you dictate my life because you're paranoid. It's not paranoia when people are actually trying to kill you. Then deal with them. Do whatever it is you do. But don't you dare ask me to disappear because you're scared. His expression shifted. Surprise maybe. Or respect. Something that looked almost like pride. You're impossible, he said. Good. Maybe you'll leave me alone. Not a chance. The waiter appeared with appetizers I didn't remember ordering. We sat in tense silence while he arranged plates, refilled water glasses, disappeared again. Dominic picked up his fork. Put it down. Picked it up again. I need you to understand something, he said finally. Everything I do, the watching, the protection, the control, it's not because I think you're weak. It's because I know exactly how strong you are. And that terrifies me more than any bullet ever could. Before I could respond, before I could process what that meant, the lights went out, all of them. The entire restaurant plunged into darkness. Dominic's hand found mine across the table, gripping hard. Don't move, he whispered. Then the shooting started. Chapter 5. Baptism by fire. The first shot shattered the front window. Dominic was moving before the glass finished falling, hauling me down beneath the table with one hand while the other pulled his gun from somewhere. I hadn't seen it hidden. Around us, the restaurant erupted into chaos, screams, breaking dishes, chairs scraping against tile as people scrambled for cover. Stay down. His body covered mine, solid and immovable. Don't look up. Don't move. I could smell him, cedar and smoke, and underneath it, something sharp that might have been fear but felt too controlled to name. His heartbeat thundered against my shoulder blade, steady despite everything. Training, I realized. This wasn't his first firefight in a public place. More shots. close enough that I could hear the bullets tear through fabric, wood, plaster. Someone was screaming, high and endless. The kitchen door banged open, shouting in Italian, maybe the owner, maybe staff running for the back exit. Dominic's phone buzzed against my hip. He grabbed it one-handed, eyes never leaving the front entrance where shadows moved against the streetlight. 2 minutes out, he said. Into it. Not a question. A statement that demanded confirmation. East exit, black SUV. Don't stop for anything. He shoved the phone back in his pocket, his attention snapping to me. Even in the dark, his eyes found mine with unnerving accuracy. Can you run? Yes. Good. When I say go, you run straight through that kitchen and out the back. My men are waiting. They'll get you somewhere safe. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Dominic, this isn't a debate. His voice went hard, the kind of authority that probably made grown men obey without question. You die, and everyone who knows my face gets tortured until they give up every location, every safe house, every person I've ever protected. You're not just a person to them, Sienna. You're a map. So you run, and you don't look back, and you live. Understood? I nodded, my throat too tight for words. Good girl. His thumb brushed my cheekbone once, quick and unexpected. Then he was pulling me up, keeping low, maneuvering us toward the kitchen with movements that felt choreographed, practiced. Like he'd done this before in other restaurants, other cities, other lifetimes. The kitchen was chaos, pots still steaming on burners, half-plated dishes abandoned on the line, a young cook pressed flat against the walk-in freezer with his hands over his head. Dominic didn't acknowledge him, just kept me moving, one hand on my lower back, guiding me toward the emergency exit at the far end. The door burst open before we reached it, 2 men in dark tactical gear, faces covered. Not Dominic's men. I knew that immediately from the way his whole body went rigid, the way his gun arm came up in one fluid motion. Down. He barked. I dropped. He fired twice, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. 1 man fell. The other dove behind the prep station, returning fire. Bullets punched through stainless steel, ricocheted off hanging pots with bell-like clangs. Dominic moved like water, like violence made fluid. He grabbed a chef's knife from the counter, threw it with casual precision. It buried itself in the second man's shoulder. The man's gun clattered to the floor. Dominic was on him before he could scream, one arm around his throat, squeezing until the struggling stopped and the body went limp. 2 seconds. Maybe 3. That's how long it took for him to neutralize to trained killers. He turned to me, breathing hard, blood spattered across his face. Not his blood. You good? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Different exit. He grabbed my hand, pulling me back through the kitchen, past the terrified cook, through a narrow storage hall I hadn't noticed before. Every step felt wrong, exposed, like we were running through a shooting gallery, waiting for the bullet that would end everything. The service door led to an alley, dark, empty. The SUV idled 20 feet away, back door already open. We ran. I don't remember the details, just concrete under my feet. My lungs burning, Dominic's hand crushing mine. The way the world narrowed to the open vehicle door and the promise of escape. We were 5 feet away when I heard it, the click of a hammer being pulled back. Dominic reacted on instinct, throwing me forward into the SUV while spinning to face the threat. I hit the leather seats hard, momentum carrying me all the way across to the far side. Through the open door, I watched him face down 3 more men who'd emerged from the shadows, watched the terrible mathematics of being outnumbered play across his features. Drive. Dominic shouted. Boss, drive. The engine roared. The door was still open. Dominic was still outside, still standing between me and 3 guns. Still I grabbed the door handle, tried to pull it shut, tried to do what he'd told me. But something made me look back one more time. He was staring at me. Not at the men with guns, at me. And the expression on his face was the most unguarded thing I'd ever seen from him, raw and desperate and resigned all at once, like he was saying goodbye. No, the word ripped out of me. No. I don't know if he heard me over the engine noise, over the shouting, over the first gunshot that cracked through the night, but I saw his lips move, saw him mouth to words before his men pulled him backward into cover, before the SUV's tires screamed against pavement, before we rocketed out of that alley and into the maze of city streets. I'm sorry. The door finally slammed shut. I pressed my face against the window, watching the alley recede into darkness. Watching muzzle flashes light up the night like deadly fireflies. Watching. The space where Dominic had been standing grew, smaller and smaller until I couldn't see anything at all. He'll be okay, the driver said, trying to sound confident. Failing. I didn't answer. Just closed my eyes and prayed to a God I wasn't sure I believed in. That he was right. That I hadn't just watched another person die because of me. Chapter 6. The Safe House Confessions. Safe House wasn't a house. It was a penthouse. 37th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. Modern and cold and beautiful in that way. Expensive things always are all sharp edges and calculated aesthetic. I hated it immediately. Mr. Volkov's instructions were clear, said the driver Marcus. He'd finally introduced himself as built like a tank, voice like gravel, eyes that tracked every movement I made. You stay here until he gives the all clear. There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the bedroom, anything you need, except freedom. Except that, no apology, just fact. He left me there, alone with my thoughts and the city lights and the crushing weight of not knowing if Dominic was alive or dead. I lasted 10 minutes before I called the encrypted phone. Straight to voicemail. 20 minutes. Voicemail. An hour. Voicemail. By hour 3. I'd worn a path in the white carpet, pacing between the windows and the door and back again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw muzzle flashes, heard that final gunshot, watched Dominic mouth, "I'm sorry," like he was already gone. The door's electronic lock beeped at 2:47 a.m. I spun, my heart launching into my throat. The door opened slowly, carefully, and then he was there. "Dominic," he said. "My name is Dominic." I didn't know why he told me that, didn't know why it mattered, but something about the way he said it, the way he held my gaze while everything else was chaos, it felt important. Like an exchange. Names for names. A tiny thread of trust in a moment that should have been pure terror. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The limping man swore, "They're coming." "How bad is it?" Dominic asked, still watching me, still not moving. "Bad. 3 blocks out, maybe less." He finally looked away, his jaw tight. I could see him calculating, weighing options, making decisions I couldn't begin to understand. The blood was spreading across his shirt, steady and dark. "You need a hospital," I said. "Can't." His eyes came back to mine. "Sienna, listen to me very carefully. When the police come, you're going to tell them you saw nothing. You were in the back office doing inventory. You heard noise, came out, found blood, called it in. That's all. That's not what happened. It's what happened." The sirens were louder now, closer, maybe 2 blocks, maybe 1. "Why should I lie for you?" He stepped closer, near enough that I could smell blood and rain and something else, expensive cologne, cedar and smoke. His voice dropped lower, quieter, and somehow that made it more dangerous, because if you tell them the truth, you become a witness. And witnesses don't live long in my world. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, my wrists, behind my eyes. What world is that? The kind where men like me don't exist in police reports. The kind where men like me understanding hit me like cold water. "Are you?" I couldn't finish the question. He watched me figure it out. Watched the realization dawn across my face. He didn't confirm it. Didn't need to. Everything about him, the gun, the blood, the way his men moved like shadows, the weight of authority in his voice, despite the wound in his side, it all added up to one impossible, terrifying truth. The back door behind me exploded open. Not the main entrance. A side door I'd forgotten existed. More men poured in. These ones in tactical gear. Faces covered. Dominic's hand went to his gun. "Don't," I breathed. He looked at me one last time. Something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then everything went to hell. Chapter 7. The truth bleeds black. We sat on the floor of the penthouse, backs against the leather couch, city lights painting shadows across the white carpet. Dominic had shed his bloody jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked almost human, almost vulnerable. "My family has controlled the port for 3 generations, he began. His voice was steady, clinical, like he was reciting someone else's history. "Shipping, imports, everything that comes into this city by water goes through us. Legitimate businesses on the surface. Underneath," he paused. "Underneath is where the real money lives. Drugs?" I asked quietly. "Sometimes. Weapons more often. Information most of all. He reached for the whiskey bottle on the coffee table above us, took a long drink straight from it. My father built an empire on knowing everyone's secrets. Who's cheating? Who's stealing? Who's hiding bodies in their basement? Knowledge is currency. And we're very, very rich. I watched his profile, the hard line of his jaw, the way his fingers tightened around the bottle. When did you join? I didn't join. I was born into it. His laugh was bitter. First gun at 7. First kill at 16. You don't choose this life, Sienna. It chooses you, and then it doesn't let go. 16. The number sat heavy in the air between us. Who? A rival family's enforcer. He'd killed 2 of our men, was going after a 3rd. My father handed me a gun and told me to prove I was his son. Dominic's eyes were distant now, seeing something I couldn't. I hesitated. For maybe 3 seconds. Long enough for my father to know I didn't want to do it. Not long enough for him to stop me. I'm sorry. Don't be. That man would have killed me without blinking. This world doesn't reward hesitation. He offered me the bottle. I took it. Let the whiskey burn down my throat. My father died 6 years ago. Heart attack in his study. Ironic, considering how many people wanted to kill him. Then it was mine, the business, the enemies, the weight of keeping hundreds of people employed and alive and loyal. And your sister? His whole body tensed. Sophia. She was different from the rest of us. Soft, kind. She hated what we did, who we were. But she stayed because family is everything in our world. He took the bottle back, but didn't drink. Just held it like an anchor. She fell in love with a man from the Calabrese family. Wrong family. Wrong alliance. I told her to end it. She refused. I waited, my hand finding his knee. He covered it with his own. They took her to force a merger. Told me I had 2 days to sign over half our territory or they'd send her back in pieces. His voice went flat, emotionless. The tone of someone who'd told this story to many times in his own head. I had a plan. A rescue operation. 3 teams. Best men I had. But someone talked. Someone always talks. We walked into an ambush. Dominic, I got there in time to watch her die. She was in a warehouse on the East Docks, tied to a chair, and she saw me coming, smiled like I was going to save her. He finally looked at me, and his eyes were haunted. I didn't save her. I got 10 feet away before they put a bullet in her head, just to prove they could, just to show me I wasn't as powerful as I thought. Tears were sliding down my face. I didn't wipe them away. I killed every man in that warehouse. Every single one. Then I went after the Calabrese family, systematically, methodically. It took me 8 months to dismantle everything they'd built over 40 years. I destroyed businesses, corrupted alliances, turned their own people against them. By the end, there was nothing left except Antonio Calabrese and his 2 sons. What did you do to them? Do you really want to know? I thought about it. About the man sitting next to me, holding my hand like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to humanity. About the violence he carried in his bones, the blood on his ledger, the darkness that lived behind those steady eyes. Yes, I said, I made them suffer. Days, not hours. I wanted them to understand what Sophia felt. The fear, the hopelessness, the moment when you realize no one's coming to save you. His grip on my hand tightened. And when they finally died, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No closure, just empty. We sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the city hummed with late-night traffic, oblivious lives moving through oblivious moments. Inside, I was trying to reconcile the man who'd brought me flowers with the one who'd tortured people to death. You think I'm a monster, he said finally. I think you're a man who's had to make impossible choices in an impossible world. I turned to face him fully. I think you've done terrible things. I think you'll probably do more terrible things. And I took a shaky breath. I think I'm falling for you anyway. He stared at me like I'd spoken a language he didn't understand. How? The word came out broken. How can you look at me and feel anything except horror? Because I see more than just the violence. I see the way you protected me in that restaurant. The way you mourned your sister. The way you're telling me the truth, even though it might make me leave. I touched his face, felt him lean into my palm. You're not just a monster, Dominic. You're also the man who programmed his number into a phone because he was worried about me, who sent flowers because he noticed I liked them, who looks at me like I'm something precious in a world that's taught him everything breaks. Sienna, the windows exploded inward in a shower of glass and gunfire. Dominic covered me instantly, his body a shield as bullets tore through the penthouse. I heard him grunt pain, not surprise, felt something warm and wet spread across my arm where we touched. Roof, he gasped. They came from the roof. Then the lights went out, and all I could hear was breathing and breaking glass, and the rapid-fire percussion of violence coming home to find us. Chapter 8. When monsters bleed. Dominic moved through the darkness like he was part of it. 1 second he was covering me. The next he was gone, a shadow peeling away from shadow, his gun appearing in his hand with practiced ease. I pressed myself flat against the floor, glass cutting into my palms. My heart beat so loud I was sure everyone in the building could hear it. More gunfire. Muzzle flashes lit up the penthouse and strobing bursts there, a man rappelling through the broken window. There, another emerging from the stairwell door that should have been locked. There, Dominic moving between them like death choreographed. He fired twice. One man fell from the window rope, his scream cutting off when he hit the ground 37 stories below. The second ducked behind the kitchen island. Dominic didn't chase him. Instead, he grabbed my wrist, hauled me up, and we were running, not toward the door, toward the bedroom. Panic room, he said, low and urgent. Behind the closet. Code is your birthday. How do you later? We made it 3 steps before the kitchen island man appeared, blocking our path. Young, maybe 25, with the kind of hungry look that said he was trying to prove something. His gun was pointed at Dominic's chest. Volkov, the man said. Boss wants you alive. Which boss? Dominic didn't sound worried. Didn't sound anything. Just calm, calculating, already 3 moves ahead. Does it matter to you? Probably. Dominic's free hand, the one not holding mine, moved so fast I almost missed it. Something silver flashed. The young man's gun clattered to the floor. He looked down at the knife buried in his shoulder with an expression of pure surprise. Dominic shot him before he could scream. Sorry you had to see that, he said, still pulling me toward the bedroom. I've seen worse. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. From you, 2 minutes ago. In the alley, fair point. The closet was enormous, bigger than my entire bedroom back home. Dominic's hand found a panel in the back wall, pressed in a pattern I couldn't follow. The wall clicked open, revealing a small room, maybe 10 feet square. Concrete walls, single overhead light, enough supplies to survive a siege. He pushed me inside, started to close the door. Wait, I grabbed his arm. You're not coming? Someone needs to handle this. There are at least 5 more men out there. 7. I counted. He smiled, quick and sharp, and nothing like humor. I'll be fine. You're bleeding. I'm always bleeding. But he glanced down at his side, where fresh blood had soaked through his shirt. The stitches had torn. Sienna, I need you to listen very carefully. If I don't come back in 30 minutes, there's a phone in that cabinet. Speed dial 1. Marcus will get you out. Dominic, promise me. I'm not leaving you. Promise. Me. Each word sharp as the knife he'd just thrown. Fine. I promise. A lie. We both knew it. He kissed me hard, desperate, tasting like whiskey and copper. When he pulled back, something had shifted in his expression. Softer, sadder. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, he said. I need you to know that. Whatever happens next. Then he closed the door, and I was alone in a concrete box, listening to gunfire through 6 inches of reinforced steel. I lasted 90 seconds before I opened it again. The penthouse looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in the walls. Blood on the white carpet, too much blood, impossible to tell whose. Dominic was behind the overturned dining table, firing at 2 men who'd taken position near the windows. His movements were slower now, labored. The wound in his side was bad, getting worse. I grabbed the gun from the dead man in the kitchen. Didn't think about it. Didn't let myself think. Just picked it up and moved. My father had taught me to shoot. Sunday afternoons at the range when I was 12, before he died, before everything fell apart. I'd hated it then. Hated the noise and the kickback and the way the targets were shaped like people. I didn't hate it now. I fired 3 times at the nearest man. The first shot went wide. The second caught him in the leg. The third didn't miss. Dominic's head snapped toward me, eyes wide with something between fury and terror. What the hell are you doing? Helping. I told you to stay. The last man standing opened fire. We both dove, bullets chewing up the floor where we'd been standing. I hit the ground hard. Breath knocked from my lungs. Dominic landed beside me, his hand immediately checking me for injuries. Are you hit? No you? Define hit. He was bleeding from at least 3 new places I could see. Maybe more underneath. His face had gone pale, shock starting to set in. Sienna, when this is over, we're having a serious conversation about following instructions. Looking forward to it, he almost laughed. Then his expression went cold, focused. On 3. I go left. You go right. Empty your magazine at anything that moves. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? I didn't. 3, he said. We moved. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast, all at once. Dominic rolling left, firing. The last attacker jerking backward as bullets found their mark. Me scrambling right, squeezing the trigger until the gun clicked empty. Until my ears were ringing and my hands were shaking, and the man was down. Not moving, never moving again. Silence. Terrible. Ringing silence. Then Dominic collapsed. I was beside him before his head hit the floor. My hands on his face, his chest, searching for the worst damage. There was too much blood. Too many wounds. His eyes fluttered, unfocused. Dominic. Stay with me. Dominic. I'm okay, he mumbled. Just need. Minute. His eyes closed. No. No. Dominic. I fumbled for my phone, the encrypted 1-speed dial. Didn't even know who I was calling. Help. I need help. The door burst open. Not more attackers. Marcus, with 6 men behind him, weapons drawn, faces grim. Marcus took one look at Dominic, and his expression went carefully blank. Get the doctor, he said. Now. Someone lifted me away. I fought them, screaming Dominic's name, watching them work on him with efficient practice movements. That said, this wasn't their first time pulling their boss back from the edge. The last thing I saw before they carried me out was blood pooling beneath him, spreading across white marble like ink and water, black and endless and terrifying. Chapter 9. The Vigil Hospital wasn't a hospital, another penthouse, different building, medical equipment that belonged in an ICU, staffed by people who asked no questions and kept no records. I sat in a chair outside the bedroom turned operating room for 6 hours while they worked on Dominic. Marcus stood guard by the door, silent, immovable. Every 30 minutes, someone would emerge, the doctor, a nurse, someone whose job I didn't understand, and Marcus would listen to whispered updates without changing expression. I stopped asking if Dominic was okay after the 3rd time Marcus said, he's alive. That's all that matters. Dawn broke over the city in shades of pink and gold. Beautiful. Wrong. The world shouldn't be beautiful when everything was falling apart. The doctor finally emerged at 7:42 a.m., late 50s, gray hair. The kind of steady hands that came from decades of practicing medicine in situations most doctors never faced. He'll live, he said, and I could breathe again. 3 bullet wounds, all through and through. Significant blood loss. I've repaired the damage, but he needs rest. At least a week of no physical activity. I almost laughed. You'll have to tell him that. He doesn't listen to me. He will now. The doctor's expression softened. He woke up during surgery. First thing he asked was if you were safe. Not his men. Not his business. You. Something in my chest cracked open. Can I see him? The doctor hesitated. He's sedated. Won't be coherent. But yes. 5 minutes. Marcus stepped aside to let me pass. The bedroom smelled like antiseptic and blood. Dominic lay in the center of a king-size bed, shirtless, bandages wrapped around his torso and left shoulder, and 4 dripped clear fluid into his arm. His face was too pale to still. I pulled a chair next to the bed, took his hand. His fingers were cold. You're an idiot, I whispered. A complete and total idiot. You could have died. His thumb moved. Just barely. Just enough to let me know he heard. I killed someone tonight. My voice cracked. I picked up a gun and I shot him, and I watched him die. And I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if I'm supposed to be horrified or numb or you're supposed to be alive. His voice was rough, drugged, barely audible. That's all that matters. His eyes stayed closed. He was already drifting back under. Dominic, don't leave. Not a command. A plea. Promise you won't leave. I promise. Liar. But he smiled, just a little. You're terrible at promises. Then he was out again. His breathing evening into the steady rhythm of medicated sleep. I sat with him until Marcus physically removed me 12 hours later, insisting I needed food and rest. I didn't want either. Just wanted to be there when Dominic woke up. Wanted to be sure he was really okay, really alive. Really? Still mine. Because that's what he'd become. I realized. Mine. Somewhere between the gallery and the restaurant. And the moment I'd picked up a gun to save him, he'd stopped being the dangerous stranger who'd invaded my life and become something else entirely. Something I couldn't lose. 3 days later, Dominic was well enough to argue with his doctor. That's how I knew he was recovering. I have work to do, he said, trying to sit up, and immediately regretting it. The people who attacked us are being handled. Marcus stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed. Leo and Vincent are running the interrogations. We have 3 survivors. They're talking. Who sent them? Constantine. Dominic's face went hard. The Russian. He's making a play for the port. Thinks you're weak after the Calabrese situation. Marcus's tone suggested he thought differently. He's wrong, obviously. Dominic finally managed to sit up, wincing. Where is he? Safe house in Queens. Under guard. Waiting for you. Good. Dominic's eyes found me, sitting in the corner with a book I'd been pretending to read. How long have you been there? Long enough to know you're planning something stupid. It's not stupid. It's necessary. Same thing in your world. I closed the book, set it aside. You're going after him. The Russian. Yes, you can barely stand. I'll manage. Dominic Sienna. He said my name firmly, but not unkindly. This is what I do. What I am. You saw it. You know it. And I can't change that just because you're worried. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to wait until you can move without bleeding. Don't have that kind of time. Every hour I wait is an hour he's planning his next move. I end this now, or it never ends. I knew that tone. Knew he'd already decided. Knew arguing would accomplish nothing except frustrating us both. Then I'm coming with you. I said, absolutely not. Not negotiable. Sienna, you don't get to protect me anymore. I stood, crossed to the bed. I'm in this. I killed for you. I stayed when you told me the truth about who you are and what you've done. You don't get to shut me out now. Marcus cleared his throat. She has a point, boss. You're not helping, Dominic said. Wasn't trying to. Dominic looked between us. Frustration and something else, pride, maybe. Or resignation warring across his features. Finally, he sighed. You stay in the car. With Marcus. Doors locked. If anything goes wrong, I know the drill. I run. I call for help. I survive. I lean down, kissed him carefully, mindful of his injuries. But nothing's going wrong. Because you're good at this. And because I'll shoot anyone who tries to stop you. He caught my hand, held it against his chest, where I could feel his heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. When this is over, he said quietly, we're leaving the city. Somewhere quiet, just for a while. Just us. Somewhere quiet sounds nice. I'll buy you flowers every day. I'd settle for you not getting shot. I'll try. He pulled me down for another kiss. This one deeper, sweeter. But no promises. You're terrible at promises too. Learned from the best. Outside, the sun was setting. Marcus checked his watch, then his phone. Cars are ready, he said. Everyone's in position. Dominic's expression shifted. The softness disappeared, replaced by something colder, harder. The face of a man who'd built an empire on violence and wasn't done defending it. Then let's end this, he said. Chapter 10. Empire of Twoth's safe house in Queens was modest, suburban, forgettable, the kind of place you'd never look twice at, which made it perfect for holding a Russian mob boss who'd made the mistake of underestimating Dominic Volkov. We parked 3 houses down. Marcus kept the engine running. 2 more cars flanked us, filled with Dominic's men. Silent, waiting. Stay here, Dominic said, checking his gun with practiced efficiency despite his injuries. I know. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he leaned across the console and kissed me like it might be the last time. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. But if it does, I'll burn this city to the ground looking for you. I meant it. Every word. So don't make me. He smiled, real and genuine and heartbreaking. There's my girl. Then he was out of the car, moving toward the house with 6 men behind him. I watched him go, my heart in my throat. My hands clenched so tight my nails drew blood. Marcus lit a cigarette. He'll be fine. Always is. You can't know that. Been with him 10 years. Watched him walk into situations that should have killed him a dozen times over. He always comes back. Marcus exhaled smoke. You're good for him, you know. Haven't seen him care about anything except revenge and business since Sophia died. You changed that. I didn't do anything. You stayed. That was enough. Minutes passed like hours. The street was quiet, normal families living normal lives behind lit windows. They had no idea that 3 houses down, violence was about to be negotiated or delivered. Then I heard it. A single gunshot, muffled, from inside. My hand went to the door handle. Don't, Marcus said. He's got this. That was a gunshot, and he's walked out of worse, but something in Marcus's voice suggested even he wasn't completely certain this time. 30 seconds later, the front door opened. Dominic emerged first, walking steady despite everything. Behind him, 2 of his men carried a body between them. Not Dominic's men. Someone else. Someone who'd bet against the wrong man. Relief hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. Dominic slid into the back seat, and Marcus pulled away from the curb smoothly, like we'd just finished grocery shopping. Instead of witnessing whatever had happened in that house, it's done, Dominic said quietly. Constantine won't be a problem anymore. Neither will anyone else who thinks I'm weak enough to challenge. He reached for my hand, laced our fingers together. It's over. All of it. Until the next one. Maybe. But not for a while. Word travels fast in this world. What happened tonight will buy us time. He squeezed my hand. Time to figure out what this is. What we are. And what are we? He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, Dominic Volkov looked uncertain, vulnerable, almost afraid. I don't know, he admitted. I know I want you. Know I need you in ways that probably aren't healthy. Know that if anyone touched you, I'd do worse than what I did to Constantine. He paused. But I don't know how to give you a normal life. Don't know if I'm even capable of being what you deserve. Good thing I don't want normal. I shifted closer, until I could feel his warmth, his breath, the steady proof of his existence. I want this. You. The danger and the darkness and the parts of yourself you think I can't handle. You killed someone for me. Yes, that changes you. Makes you something you weren't before. I know. I did know. Had felt the shift inside me when I'd pulled that trigger, watched that man fall, understood that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. But I'm not sorry. And I'm not leaving. He pulled me against him, careful of his wounds, and I felt his heartbeat against my cheek. Steady, strong, home. We're leaving in the morning, he said. Marcus is arranging everything. Somewhere remote. No phones, no business, no one who knows our names. For how long? As long as it takes. For what? For me to figure out how to love you without destroying you. The words hung in the air between us. Love. He'd said it so simply, so matter-of-factly, like it was something he'd already accepted. Even if I hadn't. You won't destroy me, I whispered. You'll just change me. There's a difference. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with you. I pulled back enough to see his face. All of you. The monster and the man. The violence and the vulnerability. I'm choosing this, Dominic. Choosing you. Even knowing what it costs. He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of everything we couldn't say out loud. When we finally broke apart, the city lights were streaming past the windows like stars, and Marcus was pretending very hard not to notice. So what happens now? I asked. Now? Dominic smiled, and it was the most genuine thing I'd ever seen from him. Now we disappear for a while. Rest. Heal. Figure out how to build something good in all this darkness. Sounds dangerous. Everything worth having is. We drove through the night-lit city, leaving behind blood and bullets and the wreckage of what we'd been. Ahead, somewhere in the darkness, a future waited, uncertain, dangerous. Nothing like the life I'd imagined for myself a week ago, but it was ours. Built on violence and trust and the strange, impossible alchemy that happened when 2 broken people found each other in the darkness. I leaned against Dominic's shoulder and watched the city fade into distance, into memory, into the past where it belonged, and for the first time since that night in the gallery, I felt something like peace, not safety, not normal, just the steady certainty that whatever came next, we'd face it together, monster and witness, mafia boss and gallery girl, 2 people who should never have met, who should never have worked, who'd somehow found in each other the only thing that mattered. Home. The end, he said. My name is Dominic. I didn't know why he told me that. Didn't know why it mattered. But something about the way he said it, the way he held my gaze while everything else was chaos, it felt important. Like an exchange. Names for names. A tiny thread of trust in a moment that should have been pure terror. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. The limping man swore. They're coming. How bad is it? Dominic asked, still watching me, still not moving. Bad. 3 blocks out, maybe less. He finally looked away, his jaw tight. I could see him calculating, weighing options, making decisions I couldn't begin to understand. The blood was spreading across his shirt, steady and dark. You need a hospital, I said. Can't. His eyes came back to mine. Sienna, listen to me very carefully. When the police come, you're going to tell them you saw nothing. You were in the back office doing inventory. You heard noise, came out, found blood, called it in. That's all. That's not what happened. It's what happened. The sirens were louder now, closer, maybe to blocks, maybe 1. Why should I lie for you? He stepped closer, near enough that I could smell blood and rain and something else, expensive cologne, cedar and smoke. His voice dropped lower, quieter, and somehow that made it more dangerous, because if you tell them the truth, you become a witness. And witnesses don't live long in my world. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, my wrists, behind my eyes. What world is that? The kind where men like me don't exist in police reports. The kind where men like me understanding hit me like cold water. Are you? I couldn't finish the question. He watched me figure it out. Watched the realization dawn across my face. He didn't confirm it. Didn't need to. Everything about him, the gun, the blood, the way his men moved like shadows, the weight of authority in his voice, despite the wound in his side, it all added up to one impossible, terrifying truth. The back door behind me exploded open. Not the main entrance. A side door I'd forgotten existed. More men poured in. These ones in tactical gear. Faces covered. Dominic's hand went to his gun. Don't, I breathed. He looked at me one last time. Something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then everything went to hell.